What's going on, champions? So today's video may not be for everybody, so I completely understand if you decide to tune out. But due to popular demand and from a lot of questions I've been receiving lately from my online and offline customers, I've decided to do a dedicated video to training and eating during the fasting season of Lent. So throughout the video, you may see me glancing over to my left because I've got my laptop here just for a little bit of guidance. Before we continue, I do have a little disclaimer. First and foremost, I'd like to specify that I am not a clergy member, nor am I qualified or worthy to advise, direct, or guide anyone in their fasting or spiritual practices. For anyone watching this video who does fast or intends on fasting and is in need of guidance as to how they should be fasting, be sure to ask your spiritual father. For they and only they have the authority to advise, direct, and guide you in your fasting. In this video, I'm simply sharing with you how I manage my eating habits to optimize training results during Lent, in accordance to how I have been advised to fast. I have received many questions from fellow Orthodox Christians regarding what they should be doing during Lent to stay energized, recovered, and physically nourished. This is merely a reflection of my experiences training hard and eating well during the spiritual season of Lent. So today is the 30th of March, which just happens to be the exact halfway mark of the fast. What are the chances, eh? How cool is that? So having started fasting on March the 7th, we're 24 days deep into the fast and we have 24 days to go because we celebrate the Anastasi on the 24th of April. So I'm just going to informally go through a few factors that you might want to keep in mind when it comes to decision making and eating while you're training during the fast. Okay, so the first thing before we start talking about food is your mindset. You've got to understand why you're going into this fast. Don't go into the fast with the intention to ambitiously lose weight, okay, or go on a diet and physically nourish yourself or do a detox, because that's not what the fasting's about. It's purely a spiritual fast, and incidentally things will happen to your body in the process of doing so. So when you go into the fast, don't have enormous physical ambitions, have enormous spiritual ambitions. This will immediately curb a lot of the problems that you may have when it comes to making decisions with your eating. Remember, you're not trying to make leaps and bounds in your physical progress, in your boxing progress, or whatever it may be, in your fitness goals over the next 48 days. It's about making spiritual progress. As soon as you acknowledge that, the mindset throughout the fast allows you to stay strong physically and mentally and spiritually, of course, over that 48 days. If you are constantly trying to strive to make leaps and bounds in your physical progress and it is at the expense of the attention that you're giving in your spiritual life, then you may want to reconsider why you're fasting and allow that to be a reflection on your fast itself. So throughout the fast, be happy to maintain your physical self. Don't look to make leaps and bounds of improvement physically. And if you happen to do so, even better. Also, don't try to introduce anything significantly new to your body. So if you're doing a lot of cardio stuff, low impact stuff, don't all of a sudden do a new plyometrics program or start heavy lifting or explosive weight training, whatever it is going to be to shock your body. Do the go-to workouts that your body's most familiar with and stick to that kind of training over those 48 days. Also, if you happen to lose weight during the fast or you happen to gain weight during the fast, don't be fussed. As long as you're focusing on your fast from a spiritual perspective, it doesn't matter whether you gain weight or you lose weight. Don't groan about weight gain and don't boast about your weight loss. Because whatever happens to your body during that process is a secondary measure to the spiritual progress that you should be intending to make. Okay, the next one is about not overthinking what you're going to eat. Be grateful for what you have access to. It's a lot easier to eat during fasting seasons now in the 21st century than it was many years ago. And fasting's been around for thousands of years. So in the process of doing your fast, don't let the center become food. You've deliberately taken food out of your diet so that food becomes less of a focus. You want to be cautious that the food doesn't become the majority of the focus. Also try to get comfortable with not overeating and constantly trying to entertain your palate. If you're constantly scrounging for new innovative ways to eat something, 1,000 ways to eat a potato, 1,000 ways to make a zucchini that's fasting friendly, you're going to be investing too much time on something that's really insignificant. Be grateful, be happy that you have access to that food, and don't worry about constantly trying to fill your stomach as much as you possibly can. Okay, so onto the practical stuff. I'm going to talk about what not to eat first. Okay, so inevitably you're going to be eradicating a large amount of staple foods from your diet. So you're going to have to be replacing them with something. What I see far too often is people replacing them with ill options. Some of the most common foods that are excessively consumed during the fast are bread, pasta, cereals, and sugar. Unfortunately, all of these things are very nutrient deficient, but they are fasting friendly. So you've got to be really cautious how much of these kind of foods that you consume over those 48 days and try to avoid allowing them to become staples in your diet. These foods are very easy to prepare and they're very easily accessible, but they shouldn't be a means for a nutritionally dense diet over that 48 days. The 48 days is a decent amount of time, and if you want to stay energized and recovered, pasta, bread, cereal, and artificial sugars are not a way to do it. Try to avoid them as much as you can. Don't worry, I've got some ideas for you. Okay, so moving on to what you should be eating. Vegetables, fruit, legumes, nuts, beans, rice, milks, and protein powder. So some of the staples that I have over the 48 days that you may want to consider, you're probably already doing anyway, but just to tell you some of the stuff that I have are the following. Every fruit and vegetable in the world. Steamed, boiled, stewed, and raw. Don't put any limits on the fruit and the vegetables. There are so many fruits and vegetables out there that have such a high nutrient density and a high in fiber, protein, all sorts of fantastic things that can keep you nourished over those 48 days. Do not dismiss the fruit and veg. Fill your guts up with fruit and veg. Your body will love you for it. All right, the next one is rice, preferably brown and preferably steamed or boiled. So over the fast, for those that are strict fasting, you won't be having any oils. So there might be a bit of a fat deficiency. So you might want to consider putting some nuts into your diet. Almonds, cashews, all sorts of different nuts and seeds. I have a big mix that I make at the beginning, and I just have a handful of that every day, maybe even a couple of handfuls. There's some really good vegan proteins out there for your post-workouts that are oil-free, so really consider them. I like to use Rule 1. They're a great protein, goes down really well, and it's very Orthodox friendly. Every bean, lentil, and legume under the sun, and there's 1,000 different recipes on there on the internet that you can utilize to cook these different lentil, legumes, and beans. Seriously, head on over, have a look, and if you need to change it according to what your fast is, what you've been advised to do, you can do that easily. If you want a bit of a sweet fix, I like to have something sweet with my coffee in the afternoons. Go for some dark chocolate, but the really good quality dark chocolate. It's out there, have a look, guys. My favorite is the Whittaker's Dark Ghana and the Dark Almond. Oh. And I don't advise this, I only do this in desperate measures. This is for emergency circumstances only. I do get a gluten-free cereal. So, Wheat Bix got a killer gluten-free cereal. It's delicious. I get a small one of those and I keep it in the cupboard. And on days where I'm just flat out, there's just nothing going on, nothing prepared, need to go shopping, whatever it may be, I'll have that with a little bit of almond milk, a bit of cacao powder, or some peanut butter, a sliced banana, whatever it may be. Don't let it become a staple, but if you need to have it once a week, just to kind of fill the gaps, go for it. Look for a gluten-free cereal. So some of the awesome ways to stay efficient over that 48 days is to cook in bulk. I know it's good to do this anyway, meal prepping essentially, but cook in bulk. Big stews, big lentil stews, big rice dishes, whatever it may be, and let that accommodate for a few days at a time. So just to give you a little bit of an example of what a day of eating looks like for me during the fasting season, so this was yesterday. I woke up early and drank a lot of water for the first hour of rising, and then I just had a black coffee, and then I done a workout in the morning after my shift, and I just kept it pretty simple. Three-minute rounds of skipping, shadow boxing, and went for a run at 65% effort. I didn't smash myself. And then when I got home from work, I had a banana, peanut butter, scoop of protein, a dash of almond milk, and cold water in the NutriBullet, and just had like a smoothie, and it was fantastic, no problems there. Then for lunch was a coconut cream risotto with mushrooms and onions. Oh, fantastic. And then after lunch, another black coffee with some watermelon. And then an early dinner was lentil soup. Mind you, lunch and dinner were made in big batches. So I'll have the 2 meals as my lunch and my dinner over maybe 2 or 3 days and then make something different. And that's just the best way to do it. Highly recommended, really easy to do. And then for dessert, I had a cup of tea and a row of dark chocolate. Okay, so if you're eating enough vegetables, you're gonna have all of your carbohydrates covered, and they're gonna be bioavailable carbohydrates. Not the crappy stuff that you're getting from pasta and from grains that's refined and the body struggles to digest and doesn't distribute and it isn't nutrient dense. As far as protein goes, you get a lot of that out of the lentils and the beans and the legumes. And then if you're doing post-workout stuff, just have a good vegan protein shake for after your workouts. You won't create any protein deficiencies if you're chiseling away at your protein and then having the protein shakes after your training. Your fats, you get a lot of them out of avocados, nuts and stuff like that, and a lot of the fruit and veg has a lot of fats in it anyway. As long as you stay hydrated on top of that to blanket everything, you're not going to have any issues. Now, a killer question that I get: what happens if I get invited out to dinner, to lunch, or whatever it may be, social gatherings? This is a really good question. This is one I struggled with for a while. To be honest, avoid it as much as you can Monday to Friday. So if some of you are fasting, very strict, not eating oil even, so full vegan with no oil or alcohol, Monday to Friday, my recommendation is, if you're going to catch up with someone, catch up with them just for a coffee. Catch up for a coffee somewhere, try to do it in between breakfast and lunch hours and dinner hours and stuff like that. If you want to catch up for a meal, leave it for the weekend when the fast isn't as strict and you have the opportunity to eat something that's just a vegan meal or a vegetarian meal, and you can have oil. It'll make it a whole lot easier. So avoid making lunch and dinner dates and breakfast dates throughout the week. Stick to coffees, and if you want to have lunch or breakfast or dinner with your friends or your family, keep it for the weekend. Or another suggestion, if you really get desperate, invite people to your house so you have the control and you have the ability to cook a meal and accommodate for your fasting needs, and also be hospitable to somebody else. So guys, the fast does go for 48 days. It is a decent amount of time. You want to be cautious that you don't create any nutrient deficiencies. Always seek the counsel of your spiritual father if you are suffering any health conditions. We are so fortunate to be living in the 21st century where we have an abundant access to a lot of vegan options, a lot of fasting friendly options. Just check the label on your packets when you go shopping and you have no worries. Through the prayers of our Holy Fathers, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us. Amen. All the very best.